There are days like this where you just pinch yourself. And all you can think of is, look at them. Just look at them. The sun is shining, and we just wanted to do a little get-together to celebrate our passion for the rare mid-engine toys, or weapons. Thank you for joining us today on our little celebration. So how do we approach this? Do we go chronologically? Or by power or top speed? Or do we do the Italian corner versus the British corner? Nah, looking at those, you just see that practicality and creature comfort aren't really on the table. So we're just going to start with the road-friendly ones, and then gradually try and sink down into track madness. There's a lot of horsepower here, and an exciting lineup, so we might zigzag through that list in no particular order, just for fun, so bear with us, and here we go. So let's kick off in style with a Bertone and the Fiat X19. In terms of style, it's got to be up there on the podium, but it doesn't look just cool, it also drives beautifully. A lovely balance, the car is very agile, it has the shortest wheelbase in our group here today, and at about 900 kilo, the dynamics were bound to be excellent. The engine is very zingy, we all love the sound of it today, very revvy, but it's surprisingly small. They started at 1.3 litre and then went up to 1.5 litre in the later models with a 4 or later 5-speed gearbox. Oh, and have you ever wondered why the bonnet is so long? Simply, the whole roof goes in. Yep, as one solid piece, no folding or anything, a nice quirky feature. Whilst the ride is very smooth, ownership can be a little bit bumpy. Sadly, we've lost many X19s to rust, and these classics will need some work from time to time. But doesn't it just seem worthwhile? Go on, tell me you don't want one. Let's stay in the Italian 4-cylinder section with the beautiful Alfa 4C. Amazing road car also, though it does feel slightly more track-focused. This is one of the few paddle shift cars here today. It weighs also around a 900 kilo bar, depending on the coupe or spider model, and that's due in part to its famous carbon tub. So nice to look at and touch. In the flesh, it does seem a little wider than you might expect, and you can look under any angle and it's just stunning. Sadly, its production has recently ended, but on this twinge of nostalgia, the good news is our next contender is still being made. The Alpine A110. I can't help but comparing it to our previous Alfa 4C. It has a reasonably sized 4-cylinder with turbo and paddle shifts. Alpine just couldn't possibly dream of a better advertising than having Gordon Murray himself as one of their happy owners. You just don't get better compliments than that. Really refreshing to see a legend pretty much reborn and made in the very same town where the original Berlinette was made, in Dieppe, Normandy. If you happen to take the ferry to Dieppe, from the ring road, you can sometimes get a glimpse of the production cars whizzing around the factory car park. It's always a nice surprise. Moving on to our Honda NSX, this is a bit of a blast from the past, being in production from 1990 to 2005. It actually was my first time today getting in an NSX, and that was awesome. And like the Alpine, this is another car that Gordon Murray was praising. Not to mention having Ayrton Senna involved, that just can't be a bad thing. Once again, you get all the comfort you could dream of, everything is perfectly civilized and refined. You can even stay in the mid-range of the revs, if you want to have a good fuel economy, but then, when you want to let loose, oh boy, you get the full experience. The VTEC kicks in, and this beautiful, loud V6, just there behind you, it all gets very alive. I wish more cars were made like that. Maybe the size is a bit misleading on screen, as seeing it in real life felt much more compact than I expected. Nicely agile on the road and not too wide, a real sweet spot. Though I must admit, I wouldn't have the heart to thrash it on a track, especially with a model like this one being in mint condition. On a side note, of course today we're just looking at a small group of rare mid-engine cars, but don't worry, we'll do it again with another selection. We'll also cover front mid-engine cars in future celebrations, where we gather various eras of Corvettes, Viper, Caterhams, MX-5, RX-7, S2000, you name it. And maybe we'll put a few V12s in there too. Anything that comes next is in no particular order. It's all completely bonkers. So let's just treat ourselves with the noble M12. The noble M12 was made in the noughties, and this is a car to be proud of. The man who created it put its name on the tin, well, on the fiberglass. And what a car! The driving position is perfect, you couldn't sit any lower. As you'd expect, the handling is phenomenal. With many mods and tuners out there, the engine started at 2.5 litre and went on to 3 litre. And look at those clams all opened, it's just so evocative and just so wild. And speaking of creations from Lee Noble, you'd better strap in now, because when you see our next candidate on the road, there's nothing like it. The Ultima GTR. It's actually based on an actual chassis of a Le Mans C2, a very good reason why it looks like a Le Mans car. It doesn't get more extreme, and amazingly, it weighs actually just under a ton, and between the mad aero and the horsepower from that race engine, this is simply the stuff of dreams. I hope this transpires through the screen, as when you see it in the flesh, it looks really intimidating, yet you just feel like a kid again. Speaking of Le Mans, the first car that comes to mind is of course the GT40. I'm not even sure this one is 40 inches high. And what charisma, it's incredible to have around. I'm sure you've seen the film Le Mans 66, great film. And did you notice how the comment on where the GT40 came from was just a quick one-liner? Well, let's have a look at that. As you know, Eric Broadley, the man who we owe many Lolas, he made anything from a Formula 1 to Can-Am's, F5000s, and of course the Lola Mark VI on which the GT40 was based. He was all about using lightweight components, and mostly aluminium. So the owner of this stunning model fitted an aluminium engine, just jaw-dropping. Listen to it. What a sense of occasion. I'm just lost for words. And that brings us to our last car of the day, also one of the youngest here, still on the V8 theme, but now with the latest technology, a flat crankshaft and big turbos. The Ferrari 488 Pista, wait for it, Piloti. This isn't just a 488, and neither is it just a Pista with a couple of extra badges and stickers, no. This is simply an homage to the 2017 season, where Ferrari won the FIA Endurance Championship in the Le Mans GTE Pro Class, with, you guessed it, the Ferrari 488 GTE. To celebrate that victory, Ferrari decided to include a lot of technology from the racing versions of the 488, the extra power, extra aero, lots of customization, like molded seats. To purchase one, you had to be a Ferrari race driver, which is probably a good thing, as with 700 plus horsepower and 760 Newton meters of torque, it probably explains why the owners still spin the wheels in 4th gear and beyond. There you have it, our little selection of mid-engines for today. If you stuck around this video so long, you're probably just as obsessed as we are, so welcome to the club. Despite a certain degree of noise, heat, impracticality, you still got from us the vibe that we utterly love them. The way they look, sound, yep, definitely, but the way they feel whether you put it along or when you start pushing them harder and harder. But is it the mad crazy horsepower that will win your heart today? Or will it be the challenge of a less forgiving car on the limit? Which one would you pick? And would you feel comfortable pushing it on those limits? With the summer coming, we have bigger events lined up, but for now, thank you for joining us today for our little mid-engine celebrations. I'll see you soon.